Is Easter a pagan holiday, a festival of pagan goddess Eostre or Ostara? This is the second video in our series on this topic. In my last video, I gave a rebuttal to those claiming that Easter is actually the feast of goddess Ishtar. We looked at the evidence and saw that there isn't a shred of truth to that claim. It's nothing more than a flat-out lie, used to fool people just because the words sound similar. We can easily dismiss those kinds of baseless, hollow claims, but it's always not that simple to debunk arguments that carry a tiny grain of truth. To even address that small bit of truth, you really have to do the work and hit the books. That's exactly the kind of allegation we are going to look into in today's video. The claim is that the word Easter actually comes from an ancient pagan goddess named Eostre or Ostara. According to this theory, rabbits and eggs were her sacred symbols, and Christians basically hijacked a spring festival that used to be held in her honor. You will see her often portrayed as a beautiful woman with golden hair. Is there any truth to these arguments? Let's take a look. The reality is, not only do we have zero evidence for a goddess named Eostre, we actually know nothing about that goddess at all. Who was she? Who followed her? When and how did they worship her? What did she even look like? We have no idea. To put it simply, this is just another myth. But like I mentioned, there is a tiny bit of truth buried in here. So what is it? Well, back in the 7th century, there was a famous scholar and a Catholic priest in northern England known as Venerable Bede. In his book, The Reckoning of the Time, he was trying to figure out the exact date of the Easter. He was basically trying to pin down which day on the Julian calendar Jesus actually died. Now I don't have to tell you to try and map an event from the 15th of Jewish month Nisan onto a completely different calendar centuries later. But anyway, during his research, he talks about an Anglo-Saxon calendar used back then and compares those months to the Julian months. While explaining the origins of different month names, he mentions things like how the month where they milked cows 3 times a day and was called Tri-Milky Month. In that same context, he brings up Eostre month, named after an Anglo-Saxon goddess named Eostre, which basically corresponds to April. He notes that back in the day, people used to hold a festival for her during that month. But by this time, it was being called the Paschal month. His theory is that the name Easter stuck because the holiday happened to fall during that specific month. So what do we actually know about this goddess? Honestly, almost nothing. We can't even say for sure that a goddess with that name ever existed or worshipped, or that there was ever a festival for her in April, because Venerable Bede is the only person in history who ever mentions her. There isn't a single inscription, statue or artifact of her anywhere. There is absolutely no archaeological proof that the Anglo-Saxons ever worshipped her. We don't even have a clue what she was supposed to look like. What you see in the picture is a pure imagination. It's just something someone drew much later. All these claims about rabbits and eggs being her sacred symbols or her being some golden-haired beauty are total fabrication. While it's true that eggs and rabbits are general symbols of life and fertility, they were never officially linked to any specific goddess in history. Even Pope Francis once made a comment about breeding like rabbits. And yes, rabbits are a well-known symbol of fertility because they multiply so fast. There is definitely that kind of symbolism when you talk like animals like rabbits or even pigs in the context of reproduction. But other than that general imagery, they have never been officially used as the sacred symbols of any goddess in history. I challenge anyone to produce an ancient depiction of a goddess that is actually associated with the rabbit symbol. I have made separate videos about Easter bunnies and eggs, so we'll get into more details on this there. Truth is, outside of that single paragraph by the Venerable Bede, there isn't a single mention of this goddess anywhere else in the world. Bede wasn't speaking from first-hand experience. By the time he was writing, no such worship existed. He was likely just going off hearsay from an earlier time, or it might have just been his own personal interpretation. What's more, he never actually claims that Christians copied this goddess's festival. The Anglo-Saxon month that corresponds to April, called Eostre month. All he is saying is that since Easter was celebrated during that month, the English language eventually adopted that month's name for the holiday. Keep in mind, it's only in English we call this holiday Easter. In almost every other part of the world, it's known as Pascha. We have clear proof today that the English language didn't even start taking shape until the 6th or 7th century. But Christians have been celebrating the resurrection since the very first centuries of the church, and we have very clear evidence for that, which we will discuss in detail in our final video, the 6th video.